morning, welcome to this week's Reset for Life moment. I first saw the Rocky Mountains when I was about 11 years old, and we drove over them on our way to Vancouver. They were unlike literally anything I'd ever seen before, and if you've never seen them in person, the pictures simply don't do them justice. They are so powerful and mysterious and majestic and really awe-inspiring. And for all of my friends who live within sight of the Rockies, please know that I, for one, am super jealous of you right now. You know, it's been a lot of years since I've driven through the Rockies, but I can guarantee you that if I drove over them again now, they would look exactly the same. Sure, the snow would be a little different on them, might have changed a little bit, and there might be a rock slide or two here or there, but they really haven't changed since I first saw them 41 years ago. Now, if I were a gambling man, which I'm not, but if I were, I'd bet good money that they would look exactly the same for the rest of my life. And really, in spite of that fact, in spite of the fact that they don't change, I'm still drawn to them. I'm still drawn to their beauty and their majesty and their wonder. In fact, Sue and I took a trip a few years ago to Kananaskis, Alberta, and though we weren't quite in the thick of the Rockies, we really did see beautiful mountains, and they left us speechless and really in awe. They were beautiful. In our ongoing When God theme to these videos, today I really want to talk to you about when God does not change. In Psalm 106:27, the writer, who's King David, says about God, "But you are always the same. You will live forever." In Malachi 3 verse 6, God himself says, "I am the Lord, and I do not change." James 1:17 says that God never changes or casts a shifting shadow. Hebrews 13 verse 8 says about the Son of God that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The big theological word that we use for this is that God is immutable, which really means, of course, that he never changes. Now, we can easily look at that and we can say that in never changing, God is archaic, that he's out of touch, that he's somehow irrelevant. I really have two responses to that. First of all, when we say that someone is out of touch or irrelevant, we're saying that they aren't living in this time, that they're somehow from some kind of a bygone era. The problem is we can't say that about God because he doesn't operate according to our time. He's a living God who is not limited by time and space, and so he's never actually out of touch. In fact, he created time and is therefore always relevant, always in touch, and always current. He's literally timeless. And the second response that I have to that is that instead of thinking that he is archaic or out of touch because he doesn't change, think of it this way instead. Think of it that he's actually secure, and he's safe, and he is sure. You know, like the mountains, he never changes. And that is a good thing because we can rely on him. He doesn't flip back and forth in the wind. He isn't, one way one day and the other way the next day. He's steady and stable and solid. This really means that his truths don't change. If they were true in the past, then they're still true today. This means that his character and his purposes and his ways do not change. They are the same, and we can rely on them all day long. They are absolute. So 2,000 years ago, when the Bible says in John 3:16 that God loved the world, that means that he still loves the world today because he doesn't change. When Philippians 4 verse 7 says that God's peace can and will guard our hearts, that means that his peace is still available for us today. Why? Because he doesn't change. When in Joshua 1 verse 5, God told Joshua that he would never leave him nor abandon him, that truth is available for us today again because God does not change. When the Bible tells us that God is just or merciful or gracious or good or a whole host of other things, we can take those truths about him as not just true then, but true today because God never changes. We never have to worry, though, about finding out all there is to know about God, because he's a God that never changes. We don't have to worry about, never finding out, always coming to the point where we find out everything about him. With our limited years and our capacity here on this earth, there will never come a point where we know God completely. Each day there is something to learn about this unchanging, steady God who is the same today as he was yesterday. We can look at the truths of the Bible and we can be confident that they are working for people today as they were 2,000 years ago. And keep in mind that if you do learn something that's new about God, it's not that God has changed. It's that God's decided to reveal a little more about himself to you because you've been obedient with what you already know about him. Friends, we ultimately have a choice. We can base our lives on a man-made principle that might change next week, or we can base our lives on a God-given truth that will never change. We can follow our hearts that will feel something different next week than it does today, or we can follow God who offers us a steady prescription for real life today and every day. We can flip back and forth in the winds of uncertainty about our morals or our relationships or our day-to-day habits or even our eternal future. Or we can surrender to God who does not change, and we can receive answers for all of these things and more. I hope that you will see the value in choosing God who is steadier and more sure than even the Rocky Mountains that He has made. That's my Reset for Life word for today. God bless.